Hi everyone, thanks for visiting my channel. I hope this finds you all safe and well. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Carol, the Thrifty Chic Housewife. If you enjoy the content you find here, please consider subscribing, like, and share my videos, and join me on social media. I will leave all the links in the description box for you below. So today we are going to be making scones. We have for two reasons. One, we have Easter coming up, and scones are a wonderful, easy breakfast that you can make ahead and put in your freezer and then just bake them off fresh in the morning. So they make a great item to have for holidays. The other reason I'm making them is because last week I posted a lovely cherry almond scone that I had made that I was drinking with tea, and I posted a picture on Instagram and got a lot of feedback from you all that you were interested in making scones. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm not going to do the cherry almond one that you saw on Instagram, but I am going to do just a basic one. I thought that that was probably better for everyone in case you don't like cherries or almonds. Just a nice basic scone recipe, and I love this recipe. It works really well. So scones, they're kind of two schools of scones, and then there's the kind of middle of the road. You have scones that are made with butter and milk. And those scones will be more biscuit-like, but they're heartier, so they can hold mix-ins that are heartier in texture, like nuts and dried fruit, and even you can make them savory with bacon and onions, cheese, all that kind of thing. And they are delicious, and that was kind of the route that I went with my cherry almond scones. And then the other side of the spectrum are cream scones, which are made with cream, and usually the butter is omitted, and the cream makes them much more cake-like, and they're very tender and light and airier. They're not nearly as dense and heavy as a scone that's made with milk and butter. But for me, I like a mix, and if you browse through recipes on Pinterest or online, you will find that most scone recipes are a mix. Simply because butter lends itself, just adds so much flavor to the scone, as well as some texture. I'm also going to be adding an egg, which helps with the texture, and then we are going to be using cream in this recipe, which gives it that lighter, airier, more decadent feel and flavor. So that's the route that I'm going to be going with today. And we're going to, there's also couple schools of thought on scones. Some people add quite a bit of sugar. Some people don't add a lot of sugar. Again, I'm more middle of the road. So we're going to do kind of middle of the road on sweetness. So you could change up the sweetness a little bit depending on your taste and how you're going to use the scone. But these are delicious for slathering in jam and Devonshire cream. Now we're going to be making a mock Devonshire cream. Today I'm going to show you how you do that. And for my friends across the pond, I know you're going to laugh at this because it's really not, like, they serve them with clotted cream, which is a lot more savory, I guess. The mock Devonshire cream I'm going to make has some sweetness to it. So it's very Americanized, and that's fine. That's what makes this great, is you can kind of change it up to your own taste. But my family loves this. My sisters and I love to do tea parties when we have the opportunity to get together. And if you were a subscriber last summer, I had a tea party for my sister's birthday, and that was really fun to do. We love to do that, get all dressed up and have little tea sandwiches and scones, of course, with the mock Devonshire cream and wonderful tea. So anyway, that's where we're going with this today. So ingredients, we're going to use all-purpose flour. We're going to be using a little bit of sugar. We're going to be using some baking powder, a little baking soda, salt, an egg, and heavy cream, and some vanilla. So pretty basic ingredients, things that you already have on hand. Oh, also the butter. Now for the butter, what I like to do is it's like any pastry when you're making a scone, whether you're making pie pastry or even biscuits, you want your butter or your fat to be really cold. So what I like to do is I take my stick of butter, put it in the freezer for about 30 minutes, and then I use my box grater and I grate it. We're still going to cut it in with a pastry cutter, but grating it makes it a lot easier to work with. So I've already done that. I've already grated my butter. It was frozen for 30 minutes. So now I'm gonna bring you in close and show you how to mix it all together. One more word of wisdom, I guess, just like with any other pastry, you wanna mix and handle as little as possible. The more you mess with your dough, that you run the chance of it becoming tough instead of light and flaky and tender, and we want light, flaky, and tender. So try to handle it as little as possible, and I'll bring you in and we'll get started. Okay guys, here we go. I have 3 cups of flour. Get a fork out. I have 3 cups of flour in my bowl. To that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're also going to add 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And we're just going to give that a nice stir. You could use a whisk here if you prefer. I just want to get all that mixed together. And then we are going to add in our butter. And like I said, this is 1 stick of butter that I froze and then grated. And we're just going to mix that in. And I'm going to use my pastry cutter just to cut it in a little bit more. We're looking for our fat to be the size of peas. Mixed in with our flour, same as you would with pie crust or biscuits. And grating it, freezing it and grating it makes quick of work of that, but you can kind of tell the texture there. It's about the size of peas. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take 1 cup of our heavy whipping cream, and to that we're going to add 1 egg. And then I'm also going to add about 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then we're going to give that a stir with our fork. Just kind of break up the yolk. And we're going to go ahead and add all of that to our dry ingredients. And we're just going to gently fold in the wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. And this is the point where you don't want to overwork it. We want nice, tender, flaky scones, not tough scones. So just be gentle. We want to thoroughly mix everything, but we want to do it gently. And just like with how I spoke about bread, if you watched any of my bread videos, the amount of liquid you need can vary depending on the day. If it's really humid in your kitchen, you may not need as much liquid as you would on a dry day. So if your dough seems too dry, it's fine to add a little more cream. And I think mine needs about it. Just add a teaspoon or 2 at a time. You don't want to add too much. You don't want your dough to be sticky, but you want it to be wet enough that all of your ingredients will stick together. So now what we're going to do is lightly flour our surface, and then we're going to turn our dough out onto our countertop. And then you just want to use your hands to get it to come together. Like I said, you don't want to overwork it, but you do want it to come together, and we want it to come together in a nice disc. Okay, once you get your dough into a nice disc, we're going to transfer it to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I'm just going to use my bench knife to help me out a little bit. Okay, then we're going to take our bench knife, or you could use a regular knife, and we're just going to cut our disc into 8 triangles. You want your disc to be 3/4 to an inch thick. Now these are pretty big scones. If you want smaller ones, you can certainly cut them smaller. If you want mini scones, you might want to cut it or shape it into a rectangle and then into 2 squares from that, and then cut your triangles. But then what I like to do is I like to pull mine apart just a little bit so that the air can circulate around them. If you leave them really close together, your edges will be really soft. If you pull them apart, that gives them a chance to get a little more done on the edges. So I like to just take my fork and just pull them apart like 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. Just about like that. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pop my tray into the freezer while my oven preheats to 400 degrees. If you put your scones in the freezer for 10, 15, 20 minutes and give them a chance to get really cold again, it helps them rise higher and then they're flakier. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. If you did not wanna bake your scones off right now, if you just want to hold them off till later, you can go ahead and just put them in your freezer, let them freeze fully, and then put them in a Ziploc freezer storage bag until you're ready to bake them off. And then on Easter morning, you can just take however many you want and pop them in the oven. They'll just take a few more minutes to bake. So in the oven they go, and I'm gonna preheat my oven and then I'll bring you back. Hey guys, my scones have been in the freezer for about 15 minutes, so we are ready to go. So at this point, you can do a couple things. You can just go ahead and pop them in the oven just as is, or you can brush the tops with them with heavy whipping cream, which is what I like to do, just a little bit across the top. Just adds a little more richness, helps them to brown. And then once you do that, the other option you have is you could also sprinkle them with regular sugar. You could use sparkling sugar, or you can use some turbinado sugar. This time, I usually don't do that, but a lot of people do. It does make them pretty, but I love the clotted cream or jam. I'm gonna go ahead and brush the tops of them, and then I'm gonna pop them in the oven for 18 to 22 minutes, 400 degrees preheated. And you just want them to be nice and golden brown on top. And then we'll take them out of the oven once they're nice and golden brown and let them cool just a bit, and then I'll bring you back and show you how beautiful they are. Okay, you guys, I realized I just filmed making mock Devonshire cream and I forgot to turn my camera on. I was adjusting it and it happens. Anyway, what I used to make mock Devonshire cream, and my apologies to our friends across the pond, I know this is not clotted cream, but it is really, really delicious on scones. It's much sweeter than clotted cream. So what I have is 4 ounces of cream cheese softened to room temperature. You want 1/4 cup of butter softened to room temperature as well. We want 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar, more or less. It's entirely up to you. I'm kind of middle of the road on sweetness, or you could leave it out altogether. You don't have to have it. And then I added 1/2 cup of sour cream for some tang, and then 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And all you do is whip it until it forms stiff peaks, and that's what I've done here. So our clotted cream is ready. Our scones have been baking for about 10 minutes, so I'm going to take a peek at those, and then when they are done, I'll bring you back. Okay guys, so what do you think? Are those lovely or what? So easy and so delicious. I baked them for about I baked them on the longer end, the 22 to 23 minutes for them to get a nice golden brown color, but they are just delicious. Care to join me for tea? Love, love, love doing this. So let's give them a taste and see how we did. Have my delicious mock Devonshire cream here. It's so good. I know it's not the real deal, but it's pretty darn tasty. And also you could add some jam. I've got some, if you can see it, I've got some homemade blueberry jam here, which is perfect for Easter time. So let's give it a taste and see how we did. The Devonshire cream is so good, you guys. It's just perfectly rich, lightly sweetened, and it just really adds to the scone experience. These scones, I don't know if you can really see, but they're buttery, they're flaky, but almost cake-like, very light and airy texture. They just melt in your mouth from the cream. They're so good. I hope you'll give them a try. They are perfect for Easter morning. Like I said, make them ahead of time. And when you wake up Easter morning, all you have to do is pop them in the oven and you have a delicious breakfast. You can make the Devonshire cream ahead of time. It keeps well in the fridge for a number of days. And it's just so good. It's great on a lot of things, actually. Like I said, my family just loves it. So I hope you'll take some time out for tea. It's great to have a cup of tea and rest, kind of take a moment and rejuvenate yourself in the afternoon. And of course, if you have a lovely scone to go along with it, it makes it that much better. So cheers. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.